You know the Great Depression. But do you know who got away with it? You've heard about Black Tuesday, the bread lines, the dust. What they don't teach you is that Wall Street was a crime family, and they thought nobody would ever make them pay. They were wrong. This is the story of the bankers who crashed America and the immigrant who made them sing. The Great Depression, a Wall Street crime story. Explained like you're 5. Let's go back to the party. 1922. America is on top of the world. The war is over. The factories are humming. And everyone wants to get rich. The economy isn't just growing, it's roaring. They'll call it the Roaring Twenties, and they're not exaggerating. Model T cars roll off assembly lines. Radios appear in every home. And the stock market? It's the hottest game in town. Here's how it worked. You want to buy $100 worth of stock. You don't have $100. No problem. Put down 10. Borrow the other 90 from your broker. This is called buying on margin. If the stock goes up, you make money on the full 100. If it goes down, well, let's not think about that. Everyone's doing it. Teachers, barbers, shoe shine boys. A bellhop tips off a Vanderbilt on which stocks to buy. Seriously, that happened. Between 1924 and 1929, the Dow Jones quadruples. Stocks only go up. Everyone knows this. The President of the United States says America is near the final triumph over poverty. Newspapers print headlines about a new era of prosperity. Nobody asks where the music is coming from. Nobody checks if the floorboards can hold. And then, the date was October 24th, 1929. History would call it Black Thursday. The market opens, and it doesn't stop falling. Panic. Real panic. The kind where grown men cry on the trading floor. Phones ring non-stop. Sell orders pile up faster than anyone can process. The ticker tape machines fall behind by hours. Nobody knows the real prices. By noon, it's chaos. Then something happens. The most powerful bankers in America hold an emergency meeting. Thomas Lamont from Morgan Bank, Albert Wiggin from Chase, Charles Mitchell from National City Bank. They agree to pool their money. Stop the bleeding. They send a man named Richard Whitney to the trading floor. Whitney walks to the U.S. Steel Post. Everyone watches. He announces loud and clear, "I bid $205 for 10,000 shares of steel." That's well above the current price. He's buying when everyone's selling. The market stabilizes. Whitney is called a hero. The White Knight of Wall Street. Sure thing, kid. The rally lasts 5 days. Tuesday, October 29th. Black Tuesday. The dam breaks. 16 million shares sold in a single day, a record that will stand for decades. The Dow falls 12% in one day. By the end of the week, the market has lost 40% of its value. $30 billion. Gone. Vanished. And that's just the beginning. See, when you buy on margin and the stock drops, your broker wants his $90 back. You don't have it. So you sell. Everyone sells. This is Charles Mitchell. They called him Sunshine Charlie, chairman of National City Bank, the biggest bank in America. Now it's Citibank. Mitchell built the bank into a machine, branches in 50 cities. His salesmen sold bonds to middle-class families who'd never bought a security in their lives. He told them it was safe, conservative, like putting money in a savings account. What he didn't tell them, a lot of those bonds were garbage. South American government bonds, loans to countries that couldn't pay. When the crash hit, those bonds became worthless. Grandmothers lost their savings. Mitchell kept his commission. Oh, and in 1929, he made over $1 million in bonuses. How much did he pay in taxes? 0. He sold his stock to his wife at a loss to avoid the tax bill, then bought it back. Perfectly legal at the time. Perfectly disgusting. This is Albert Wiggin, chairman of Chase National Bank. Remember that meeting where the bankers saved the market on Black Thursday? Wiggin was there. He put up Chase's money to buy stocks. What nobody knew, while he was publicly buying to save the market, he was privately selling. Shorting, actually. Betting that Chase's own stock would fall. He used shell companies in Canada to hide the trades. No taxes, no fingerprints. When the dust settled, Albert Wiggin had made $4 million by betting against his own bank, while his depositors lost everything. Ferdinand Pecora would later say of Wiggin, "There was no other case of a corporate executive who so thoroughly used his position for private profit." Wiggin didn't just cheat the system, he was the system, and he thought he'd gotten away with it. A few people saw what was happening, but most just kept dancing. Gatsby style. The music was too loud, the money was too good. And then there's Richard Whitney, the White Knight himself, president of the New York Stock Exchange from 1930 to 1935. Harvard man, Groton School, old money, the face of Wall Street respectability. His brother was a partner at Morgan Bank. Whitney testified before Congress, defending Wall Street. He said the exchange was a perfect institution. He fought every attempt at regulation, called it socialism. Meanwhile, he was borrowing money from everyone he knew, his friends, his family. 100,000 here, 100,000 there. He borrowed 111 times in one 4-month period. When that wasn't enough, he started stealing. From the New York Yacht Club, from Harvard's funds, and from the New York Stock Exchange Gratuity Fund. That's the fund for widows and orphans of deceased exchange members. Richard Whitney, the voice of Wall Street, was stealing from widows. But that wouldn't come out for years. In the meantime, America was starving. By 1933, unemployment hit 25%. 1 in 4 Americans who wanted work couldn't find it. Bread lines stretched for blocks. Families lost their homes. And the bankers, they were still rich. The public wanted blood. They wanted answers. In 1932, the Senate launched an investigation. They wanted to know who caused the crash. The investigation went nowhere for almost a year. Bankers refused to hand over records. Witnesses dodged questions. If you think that's bad, wait until you see what Pecora found in the bank records. Quick thing. If you're learning something, subscribe. Takes 2 seconds, and it's free. Unlike the $4 million Wiggin made betting against his own customers. Seriously, hit the button, now. Back to the bankers. Now, where were we? Oh, right. The part where they start to sing. The Senate fired 2 chief counsels for getting nothing done. A third quit. They needed someone who could actually take on Wall Street. In January 1933, they found him. His name was Ferdinand Pecora. Born in Sicily, came to America at age 4. His father was a cobbler. They lived under the elevated train tracks in Chelsea. Pecora worked his way through night school, became a lawyer, then a prosecutor. For 12 years, he was an assistant district attorney in Manhattan. He knew how to build a case, he knew how to cross-examine, and he had nothing to lose. The senators thought they were hiring someone to write their final report. Pecora had other plans. He requested permission to hold 1 more month of hearings. Then he did something the other counsels never did. He read the documents. Pecora subpoenaed the internal records of the biggest banks in New York. Thousands of pages, memos, ledgers, private correspondence. He and his small team worked around the clock. They didn't just read the numbers, they understood them. When the bankers walked into those hearings, they expected to dodge questions like they always had. They had no idea what was coming. March 1933, the Senate caucus room. Hot lights, radio microphones, the nation listening. Charles Mitchell, Sunshine Charlie himself, took the witness stand. He walked in with contempt. The richest banker in America, facing some immigrant lawyer. Mitchell figured he'd be out by lunch. He was wrong. Pecora started with the numbers. Mr. Mitchell, your bonus in 1929 was how much? $1,350,000. And your income tax payment that year? Silence. 0, Mr. Mitchell. You paid 0. Mitchell tried to explain the stock sale to his wife, the technical legality. Pecora produced the documents, bank records, Mitchell's own correspondence. Every time Mitchell tried to spin, Pecora had the receipt. Then, Pecora went deeper. The South American bonds, the ones National City sold to regular Americans. Pecora revealed that National City's own internal memos called these bonds risky. The bank sold them anyway, made millions in fees. When the bonds defaulted, the customers lost everything. National City kept the commissions. Pecora made Mitchell admit, under oath, that the bank had hidden bad loans by packaging them into securities and selling them to people who didn't understand what they were buying. Sound familiar? It should. The hearings lasted 10 days. By the end, Charles Mitchell was destroyed. Senator Carter Glass stood up and said, "Mitchell, more than any 50 men, is responsible for this stock crash." Mitchell resigned in disgrace the next day. The newspapers went wild. Headlines called the bankers banksters, a word Pecora's hearings invented. Finance gangsters. The Chicago Tribune wrote, "The only difference between a bank burglar and a bank president is that one works at night." Senator Burton Wheeler said, "The best way to restore confidence in our banks is to take these crooked presidents out and treat them the same as we treated Al Capone." America finally had names, faces, villains, and Pecora wasn't done. One by one, he called them in. Albert Wiggin, the man who shorted his own bank. Pecora produced the Canadian Shell Company records. He made Wiggin explain, transaction by transaction, how he bet against Chase while telling his depositors everything was fine. $4 million in profit, tax-free, while widows lost their homes. The senators asked Wiggin if he thought this was wrong. Wiggin said he didn't see a problem. He resigned from Chase shortly after. But here's the thing, what Wiggin did wasn't illegal. There was no law against shorting your own company. Pecora's hearings would change that. Then came J.P. Morgan Jr., the most powerful banker in the world, son of the legendary J.P. Morgan. Morgan walked into the Senate like he owned the place, because in many ways he did. Pecora asked him about his taxes. Morgan admitted he paid zero income tax in 1931 and 1932. None. The richest banker in America. Nothing. Then Pecora revealed Morgan's preferred list, a secret list of friends who got to buy stock at below market prices. On that list, former President Calvin Coolidge, a Supreme Court justice, senators, generals. Basically, Morgan had been buying the American government with discount stock deals. The hearings became, as Senator Glass said, a circus. But it was a circus that exposed the rot at the heart of Wall Street. Let me tell you what happened to each of them. Charles Mitchell, forced to resign, indicted for tax evasion, acquitted at trial, but the government won $1 million civil judgment against him. His career was over, his reputation destroyed. He eventually rebuilt himself at a smaller firm, paid his debts, died in 1955. Albert Wiggin resigned in disgrace. Chase had promised him a $100,000 a year pension for life. When the public found out, the outrage was so loud he had to decline it. He never faced criminal charges. What he did became illegal. He retired to philanthropy, died in 1951. And Richard Whitney, the White Knight, for years after the hearings, he kept borrowing, kept stealing. In early 1938, the comptroller of the stock exchange discovered the truth. Richard Whitney was an embezzler. His company was insolvent. On March 10, 1938, he was charged by District Attorney Thomas Dewey. Whitney pleaded guilty. April 12, 1938, Grand Central Terminal. 6,000 people showed up to watch. Richard Whitney, in handcuffs, escorted by armed guards, boarded a train to Sing Sing Prison, the president of the New York Stock Exchange, the voice of Wall Street. Going to prison with a rapist, 2 extortionists, and a hold-up man. He served 3 years and 4 months. When he got out, he managed a dairy farm, 25 cows. He was banned from securities for life. FDR, who had gone to the same prep school as Whitney, said when he heard the news, "Not Dick Whitney, I can't believe it." But Pecora wasn't just looking for scalps. He wanted to fix the system. The hearings gave Congress the ammunition it needed. 1933, the Glass-Steagall Act. It separated commercial banking from investment banking. Banks that take your deposits can't gamble with that money in the stock market. Simple rule, common sense. It also created the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance. Your money in the bank is now guaranteed by the government, up to a limit. 1934, the Securities Exchange Act created the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. Finally, someone to watch Wall Street. And here's the twist. FDR appointed Joseph Kennedy as the first SEC chairman. Kennedy, a stock speculator himself, someone who'd played the same games. When people asked why, Roosevelt said, "Takes one to catch one." Ferdinand Pecora was appointed as an SEC commissioner. He'd hoped to be chairman. He wasn't. But he'd done something more important. He'd shown that Wall Street wasn't above the law, that a cobbler's son from Sicily could take on the most powerful men in America and win. In 1939, Pecora wrote a book about the hearings. It was called Wall Street Under Oath. In it, he issued a warning. Under the surface of governmental regulation, the same forces that produced the speculative excesses of 1929 still give evidence of their existence. He wrote, "Given a suitable opportunity, they would spring back into pernicious activity." He was right. Let's jump ahead. 1999, 66 years after Glass-Steagall became law, Congress votes to repeal it. The wall between commercial and investment banking? Torn down. Banks can gamble with your deposits again. President Clinton signs the bill. The biggest banks celebrate. They can finally get bigger. Chase merges with JP Morgan. Sound familiar? Citibank. Remember them? National City Bank. The bank Mitchell ran becomes Citigroup. The same banks Pecora dragged into the light are now bigger than ever. 9 years later, 2008, the housing market collapses. Banks fail. Lehman Brothers goes bankrupt. The biggest bankruptcy in American history. The government bails out AIG. Bear Stearns. Citigroup. The same Citigroup that traces back to Sunshine Charlie Mitchell's National City Bank. They got $45 billion in taxpayer money. The bankers kept their bonuses. Almost nobody went to prison. Pecora's warning had come true. Given a suitable opportunity, they would spring back into pernicious activity. They did. Sure thing, kid. So what's the lesson? Wall Street isn't going to regulate itself. Every time we forget that, we pay the price. 1929. 2008. The names change, the game doesn't. But here's the other lesson. Sometimes one person can make a difference. Ferdinand Pecora wasn't rich, wasn't connected, wasn't part of the club. He was a cobbler's son who did his homework, and he brought down the most powerful men on Wall Street. Not with guns, not with money, with subpoenas and receipts. He died in 1971, age 89. Most people today have never heard of him. Maybe that should change. If you want to dig deeper, here's where to start. The Hellhound of Wall Street by Michael Perino tells Pecora's full story. Pecora's own book, Wall Street Under Oath, is still in print. PBS made a documentary called The Crash of 1929. Links in the description. They help the channel. One more thing. Remember Richard Whitney, the president of the stock exchange who went to Sing Sing? When he got to prison, the guards called out roll. All men who came Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And Mr. Whitney. Even in prison, he insisted on being called Mr. The prison psychiatrist said Whitney never showed the slightest sign of self-criticism. He wore his Harvard Porcellian Club pin to his trial. Some people never learn, but maybe you can. Because the next time the market looks too good to be true, the next time someone tells you stocks only go up, ask yourself, who's selling and who's buying? And by the way, next time someone tells you the market regulates itself, ask them about 1929. If you made it this far, you're one of us. Subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment. Thanks for watching. More stories like this? Sure thing, kid.
The market crashed and the money burned. The bankers laughed while the people yearned. They stole it all in the light of day and thought that they would get away. But here comes a cobbler's son with receipts for everyone. Sunshine Charlie, where'd the money go? Sure thing, kid, now the whole world knows. They called them banksters, finance crooks. He caught them all with their own damn books. Glass-Steagall built the wall so high to keep the wolves from the apple pie. Here comes the cobbler's son with receipts for everyone. Mr. Morgan, did you pay your share? Sure thing, kid, zero if you dare. Pecora unsung name, he lit the fire, they forgot the flame. But we remember what he done, the hellhound, the cobbler's son.